My paper is a rather general paper, so it doesn't deal with a particular case. It's an exploration of the idea of political accountability and how that idea can help us to understand the public sector reform process in South Africa. Two accountability aspects of that discussion struck me. And the first one is that it seems impossible to develop a capable state in which citizens can work together with governments without systems, mechanisms of effective political accountability. That the effectiveness of the state is dependent upon accountability systems. And secondly, and I guess more politically, that a state that isn't accountable to citizens is a hazard, a danger to democratic politics. Political accountability is also a useful concept for comparative purposes, I think, particularly for exploring the experiences of other states that became democracies in the 1990s and what's happened to them since. So a conceptual analysis of the idea of accountability suggests it has three elements. To be accountable, public officials have to be answerable, in the sense they have to provide information about their decisions and how they were taken. Accountability also requires justification. So it includes the demand that ministers and officials explain, to put that slightly differently, that they give reasons for their actions. So accountability is linked to what we might call a culture of justification, in which people in positions of power expect to have to justify their decisions and actions. It implies the subordination of policy to reason. Thirdly and finally, accountability implies some kind of enforcement or sanctions. So I don't think we would say somebody was accountable for their actions if there were no consequences that followed from that accountability. Now, there are two dimensions that scholars usually ascribe to political accountability. They're usually divided into vertical and horizontal dimensions. Vertical accountability refers to citizens' direct efforts to enforce standards of proper conduct on the state and its officers. So vertical accountability is about accountability to the citizens, usually enforced through electoral sanctions, through democratic elections, or through exposure, particularly through the news media. The second dimension of accountability is horizontal, and that refers to the capacity of state institutions themselves to check the abuse of state power. This is sometimes, horizontal accountability is sometimes described as intra-state accountability for that reason, because it refers to how state institutions check one another. So the obstacles to enhanced accountability are both technical and political. But as I said at the beginning, this paper is very general, and I think to understand relationships of accountability, it's important to study them both comparatively, but also on an institution by institution basis within South Africa.